Carabao!
Jesus
Bring it
Christ. Emily, Chunk, instead of drinking beer, is drinking an energy drink, and it is hard to wrangle. Yeah, it's a developing situation.
Bring it on. Bring it on.
Oh,
I'm going to need a beer to level myself out. Hang on.
I missed you, idiots. And welcome back to me and the Miles Offside podcast, where we talk a little bit of football and a whole lot of nothing. My name is Oscar Puente, also known as Footy From Afar, and with me, as always, is my co-host Chuck Bailey, and with me, as sometimes, is super producer Ian Stimson.
The super producer credit's back at least.
Yeah, I'll take that.
Well, it's all the breathing that you have to edit out.
Yeah. Was Adam not available, Chuck, today? No?
No, funnily enough, he didn't want to come on the pod after saying he was not worried about playing Crystal Palace. Suck it, Adam. Nah.
Yeah, I do want to take this opportunity to say I was out last week. I did listen to the podcast, and I wanted to thank our guest for coming on and filling in my shoes and doing a really excellent job. So thank you very much to Finley Simpson, really stepping up to the plate. And I guess Adam was on too, so, whatever.
Can't even give him that one.
No, Adam was good. Adam was really good. We joke a lot, but I actually weirdly like him, despite the fact that he's an Arsenal fan. I do find him to be somewhat intelligent from time to time, which is like more than I can say for the two of you, so.
Yeah.
Genuinely.
Fair point.
But yeah, good job, Adam. Good job, Finley. Thank you for stepping it up. Good job, Chuck, hosting.
Yeah.
You really get it, had the podcast moving along. That was great.
Professional, I know.
Needs must.
Yeah.
I've got it in me every so often. I'm sort of like Benteke. I won't do something for a long time, but when I do, it will be good.
Okay.
Yeah, Benteke scoring his first goal in a decade on Easter Sunday is pretty delightful, I thought.
That's a pretty good resurrection. Probably the best resurrection that's ever happened on Easter.
Really did Chelsea a favor that then we went and fucking squandered like nothing.
Hey, you got a point against Burnley.
No one wants the Champions League spot.
No
one wants it.
Tottenham are currently 0-0 against Brighton, of all teams, in the 50th minute.
Yeah, we're recording on the Tuesday night as usual, so there are a couple of matches happening, and we are obviously recording before the Manchester derby, which is in no way going to fuck us up.
No, so either Man United have won, or Man City have won, or there was a draw. So we can just edit. You can just edit out one of those, Ian, and add it in post.
Yeah, I really can't believe that it was such a insert scoreline here result. Like, really, really interesting.
Yeah, it was really crazy when that moment happened.
I mean, you laugh. This is pretty much what we usually do. So. And I expect a return to Chuck's normal levels now, being as he's drinking a beer and a Carabao.
I wanted to investigate. I saw it. I finally saw it in a shop. It was 49 pence. It aggressively says on the label, "Bring it on."
Which you proceeded to aggressively chant at the two of us before we started officially recording.
Yeah, I mean, it's diabolical.
It's really bad, is it?
Yeah, I mean, how the League Cup would allow this to put its name on it is quite frankly shocking.
Well, I'm happy to be back if you are joining us
Good
for the first
have you
time.
back.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Ian. Chuck, do you want to, anything to say?
Yeah, you're here.
Yeah, alright, cool. We'll be good. By the way, fuck you, I've been a Chelsea fan for a lot longer than 7 years. Both of you guys.
Right, I knew that was going to get some blowback.
Yeah, 13 years, which is as long as it was really possible to watch the Premier League in America, so...
Fine. I plucked 8 out of nowhere because the other day you didn't know who Richard Dunn was, and 8 sounded like a good...
13 is like half a Chuck's life, right? Approximately.
Roughly, yeah.
Much more than half of Adam's life.
Yeah, what's he, like 18?
12?
Like
12.
23 or something.
Yeah. So,
Disgusting.
Adam was in diapers when I became a Chelsea fan, so I've been a Chelsea fan about as long as he's been an Arsenal fan, really, if you think about it.
Uh-huh.
And I never thought that Arsenal were named after Arsene Wenger, so...
Right, let's cut him some slack. He's not here to defend himself.
Yeah, well, neither was I last week, and that didn't do me any favors. Going in on someone with asthma for breathing loud. Really? Thought you guys were better than that.
Nope.
No, you didn't.
No, I really didn't. That's why I like you guys. I was like, oh, these guys are assholes. We should start a podcast together.
And so are all the listeners.
All right, so joining us for the first time, thank you. We're happy to have you. If you keep coming back for all the pain and love, thank you. We love you. Give us a 5-star review on iTunes or Stitcher or Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts, especially if you're one of the random Virginia fans that we have. We'd love a 5-star review in the States. Get us on those ranking boards. Hello to our listeners in Finland. Is that what it was?
Oh, God.
Yes, is that right?
Yes, it was Finland, yeah.
Or as they would say in their homeland, hi.
Right.
Oh, that's it. It's just HEI instead of HI, but hi. Yeah, so let's go ahead and jump right into it with our rapid fire news. Shane Long has scored the quickest goal in Premier League history. After 7.69 seconds, he scored against Watford. Chuck, is that shorter or longer than it took to conceive your daughter?
Um,
I'm back, bitches!
Well, there were less people watching.
there was a lot less people watching. Probably less alcohol involved.
Nobody was saying the word long.
Nobody was saying the word long. No. I mean, it's when these records happen and they're put in the history books, and you think someone will look in 20 years and go, "Oh wow, this guy Shane Long, he must have been good." Like, no,
Not really.
Speaking of doing a goal, our second story for today. Higuain done a goal, gentlemen. And he celebrated... titties.
titties. Just a right in there. I mean, what a guy. He knows he's going soon. He'll be out of the country. Brexit will happen, so nothing can happen to him. So you may as well just go motorboat a fan.
I mean, right, consent is important, so let's assume that he asked her before he then plunged himself into her tits for 15 seconds.
There was definitely a grabbing motion from the fan, I feel.
I did show the clip to Emily, and she said that it looked more like she grabbed his head and brought him into her loving bosom, like a ginger wildling to a giant's teat.
Oh, God.
Very good.
Game of Thrones! Hi. Yeah, it was, I mean, she did really it did look like she brought him in and kind of held him there, and he was like,
Oh, yeah, I wasn't genuinely questioning that, yeah. She's clearly fully happy about the situation, but yeah, it stays there for an uncomfortably long time.
It really does.
Everybody needs a bosom for a pillow.
Yeah, makes a good bosom. Good pillow and a good bosom. A good bosom is a good pillow. They should just be the same word, I think is what we're all trying to say.
Yes.
Don't drag us down with you.
Okay. Next story. Cardiff boss Neil Warnock compares Liverpool forward Mohamed Salah to diver Tom Daley.
I mean, it was a penalty, though, so just...
Very, very clearly.
It was clearly a penalty, but you do get his point because Salah does have this history of doing like the assassin sniper shot, like go down to like fling the arms back and arch the body. I really don't like Mo Salah.
See, I'm gonna have to defend him here.
Well,
I think
no, you won't. It was a foul. I will give that. Scott Morrison. Is it Scott Morrison? No, I've just got a mate called Scott Morrison.
Whoever
Whoever it is, Morrison. I know it's Morrison. Has his arms all over him, so fair enough. And yeah, Salah does have to kind of go down for it.
That's the thing. He won't get the penalty without it, will he?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's my defense of Mo Salah here, is that like players who don't go down don't get calls. His problem is that he's really, really fucking terrible at selling a foul.
Yeah.
Like, you have to sell fouls to get calls. You can't just be like, oh, that was a foul, and then leave it on the refs. But when he tries to sell what is literally actually a foul, a legitimate foul, he goes down hilariously and about 5 seconds too late. And very dramatically. He's so bad at selling fouls, which is hilarious. But yeah, that was clearly a pen.
I mean, he's gonna get to a situation where he doesn't get calls because of the reputation.
Yeah.
With VAR next season, it's interesting as which way does it kind of go? Does it mean that he gets more calls? Does he not? Do referees then just choose not to look at VAR?
Or do they give him the penalty and book him?
Can both happen?
Yeah, you can give the penalty and book him for simulation.
Yeah, it could definitely be a penalty and a dive, and that is a much, much underused situation.
If you're exaggerating what's happened, then you're deceiving the ref. That's simulation. You can get booked. Doesn't matter sort of what order. The foul might happen first, the penalty happens or whatever, but anything that happens that he's trying to deceive the ref, he can get booked for it. I mean, I think it takes a ballsy ref to do it, but...
Yeah, but I wish we could see it more. I'd love to see it more. And there's so many unwritten, unspoken rules around penalties, like if a player gets a shot off, they never give the pen, even if it was clearly a foul on a pen.
Yeah.
And even if the shot is, like, terrible because they were being fouled and falling down in the process.
Yeah.
So, like, players shouldn't try to shoot, shouldn't try to keep playing. They should go down. All sorts of stupid things because they don't actually give penalties correctly. So, it's a pain in the ass. Speaking of players with bad reputations, gentlemen, Raheem Sterling update. The scoundrel.
Oh, God, what has he done now?
You won't believe it. You won't believe it. Raheem Sterling will pay for the funeral of Crystal Palace youth player Damari Dawkins, who died aged 13. Obviously a very sad situation. Huge props, I guess, to Raheem Sterling. Really great guy who we regularly talk about doing great things. It is nice to see the BBC covering this story and giving him the credit he deserves.
Yeah, I mean, we cover him regularly, and it's just another sort of tick in the good column, isn't it?
Are there ticks in the bad column for him?
He's black.
Well, yeah, possibly. Yeah, according to the tabloid.
I mean, according to us, Oscar.
According to us.
Right.
There aren't many ticks in it, if any.
Yeah, I got nothing. Dude, genuinely, like, one of the nicest, best people in football, right? Like,
seems like it, yeah. I mean, maybe we'll see a sea change at some point. I mean, at least last time he did a great performance for Man City, the back pages were a bit better. I mean, let's wonder if they've sort of realised that public tide of opinion is against them.
Nah, I doubt it.
No.
But no, incredible gesture by him doing that, and it goes a long, long way in the world and just shows the good things that people in his position can do. So it's amazing, and all credit to Raheem.
Definitely.
Yeah, great guy. I think second favorite player of the pod behind Ruben Loftus-Cheek, who we just unreasonably love for personal reasons. But Raheem, fantastic. Keep it up. We love you. Speaking of Raheem Sterling, actually, our next story, the Player of the Year award shortlist has been released. Midfielder Bernardo Silva, winger Raheem Sterling, forward Sergio Aguero are all nominated for the Premier League, as well as Liverpool players Virgil van Dijk and Sadio Mane, and Chelsea forward Eden Hazard rounding out the list. So 3 City, 2 Liverpool, and Hazard, who is probably actually the best player in the league. Who would you guys vote for?
I mean, I could make an argument for this season for Hazard to definitely not be in that list, because that doesn't make sense, especially with how Chelsea have performed. I mean, the City and Liverpool high percentage of players in there does obviously make sense, because one of those teams is going to finish as the highest points loser in the Premier League ever. Will have the most points out of 23 out of the 25 years or whatever it is of the Premier League, that they normally would have won it. I mean, it's an unbelievable position to be in.
Yeah, they're both on pace to have within the 5 most points ever gotten in the top division.
It's insane. Absolutely insane. And I think, it goes on from what we were just saying, and I think if City win the league, or even potentially if not, then it's got to go to Sterling. He's just been incredible for him all year. And not just for City, but also, doing amazing things for England before the season. In the World Cup was absolutely fantastic and pivotal, even though a lot of fans will still shout and rant and rave and not understand the role that he was supposed to be playing in that. My only thing with this is, and it may come from a thing of bias, but if we look at the Young Persons of the Year award, Raheem Sterling is also in that, just because of his age, with Bernardo Silva, David Brooks. I'm doing this off the top of my head. Who else is in there?
Nah, Bernardo was on the main list. I got the list in front of me. I can just tell you.
Go.
It is Sterling, Rashford, Trent Alexander-Arnold, West Ham midfielder Declan Rice, and David Brooks from Bournemouth.
Where the fuck is Aaron Wan-Bissaka?
Yeah, ridiculous.
Statistically,
ridiculous.
The best defender in Europe this year is not even in that list. I mean, David Brooks. What the fuck is David Brooks? What the fuck is Declan Rice? Like, it's bullshit.
If you had asked me point blank what team Declan Rice plays for, I could not have told you. Like, fully could not have told you.
Yeah.
No, it's awful. And it's led to a lot of things, because the Sterling being on that list has meant that a lot of people have criticised and said, well, it doesn't really make sense to have it as a young person's award, why not a rookie award? So either someone in their first season or second season, or maybe someone who's made up to 50 appearances in the Premier League. Because having someone who's been in the Premier League for so many years as that, it just kind of means that the award doesn't really mean as much. I mean, out of those 5, if we're talking as Player of the Year is going to be Sterling, then Young Player of the Year absolutely has to be him. And he would see out any of those players, although Trent Alexander-Arnold is probably the closest to him, who has had a great season. He's not a patch for overall impact across the team, as Raheem Sterling is. And so just makes me think whether they should change it. And also massively bitter because Aaron Wan-Bissaka should win it.
With good reason.
Yeah, fully on board. Wan-Bissaka shouldn't have just been on the list. He should be probably winning it, although the Raheem Sterling thing does make it more complicated. I'm with you. I would like to see, actually, that's a great idea. Make it the player with less than 50 appearances award. I think that's a really cool way to cut it off.
So like a rookie of the year. You know, they have all those awards in a lot of like the American sports and the way they boil it down. And
yeah, although it's tougher here because you'll have like a guy who made one appearance 3 seasons ago with 5 minutes left at the end of the season when they were 15. And so, would that make them ineligible for the Rookie of the Year award? Because it's not technically their rookie seat. Like, Lukaku played 3 minutes for Chelsea. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Yep. Speaking of amazing young players, our next story, and this one pains me to have to say out loud, Callum Hudson-Odoi, out for the season. Did his Achilles.
Exploded Achilles, so probably out for quite a lot of next season as well, I imagine.
Yeah, it will be about 8-9 months probably.
Yeah. Ugh, it hurts.
Yeah, so that takes you to, December, January next year. Yeah, that's half of next season as well.
Mm-hmm.
At least Chelsea don't have like a transfer ban looming or anything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute.
Oh dear.
The less time we spend on this, the better, but fuck me, this is bad.
Yeah. If you were to do the Predictor League right now for next season, where would you put Chelsea?
19th.
Fuck off. Come on.
I'd put him 19th and still score higher than you.
Shit. I don't know. 5th or 6th still. Like, we're still, like, top 6.
Okay.
Despite everything else. Like, the big 6 teams default into the top 6 even when they're having a shit season. Like, a shit season for Chelsea or a shit season for Arsenal, like Adam was talking about last week, is still a better season than Palace are capable of, Watford are capable of.
Hey.
You know, like...
Hey there.
Don't you be coming back with your accurate analysis.
You beat Arsenal 3-2, come on.
Correct.
Yeah. No, but I think genuinely, it's not worst case scenario because obviously anything can happen, but within the more probabilistically realistic realm of possibilities. Yeah, just give it a second.
Just trying to figure that line out. Probably realistic. Right, okay, yeah.
Reasonable predictions, let's say. Top 6. They'll be I think they could be 5th or 6th probably next year. If they keep Hazard, then they could be pushing for 4th.
Is there any realistic thought that you're going to keep Hazard? Like, as a neutral, I feel like that's a done deal.
I think even within the Chelsea community, it's getting to the point now. I wasn't going to report on this because I don't want to, but in the last week, a guy with a lot of insider information within the French press and the France national team has gotten the scoop on a lot of stories regarding French players, said that they have agreed personal terms with Real Madrid. So, and, you know, now that Zidane is back, I do think that's a big part of why they brought back Zidane as opposed to some other big manager, is because Hazard and Zidane have been batting eyelashes at each other for years.
Yeah.
So.
Sorry to bring that up.
Nah, it is what it is. But speaking of French teams, our next story, PSG and Juventus have both secured their titles. In other news, water is wet, and Arsenal suck.
Just throw that one in there for good measure.
Yeah. Anything to say on that?
I mean, it's also nice that both of those teams have also been knocked out of the Champions League, so it's like what they actually wanted to achieve this season isn't happening either.
Yeah.
After Juve thoroughly put to the sword by Ajax, who are just impressing everyone this year. Like, it's obscene how well they've done in that competition, you know, knocking out Real Madrid and not by luck, completely on merit, and then doing the exact same to Juventus, to then set up a semi-final with Tottenham. Oof. Ajax-Barcelona final, anyone?
Ooh, that would be good. That would definitely be good. Barca-Liverpool is tough because they are clearly the two best teams left. And so, like, for them to be in the semifinal instead of... Although I guess from a neutral perspective, it is nice to get them to play 2 legs instead of just 1, because they are the 2 best teams. So you'd rather them meet in the semifinal than the final for just to see them more. But yeah, there's going to be a weak team in the final. And that's all due respect, like you were just saying, Ajax have done a really good job. But they're not, Champions League final caliber team. I mean, literally they are, because they're probably going to make it, because Spurs suck.
Yeah.
But
then that's not the first time that's happened either, is it?
yeah, that's true. I mean, Chelsea, when we won in 2012...
Well, yeah, you weren't the
not
best
at
team
all
in
the
it.
best team.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
But we got the trophy, so suck it.
Well, that's all that matters.
That's all that matters.
Yeah, ultimately. And they can only beat who's in front of them. And, okay, they've set up a semi-final, which is the best one they could have got against Tottenham. But like I just said, they've had to beat Real Madrid and Juventus on the way through that.
God, Tottenham are struggling to dispatch Brighton here. I mean, talking about...
Yeah, I just turned around real quick to get a glance while Chuck was talking.
I think Trippier just... Is it Tripp... Or, Tottenham just hit the post. But
Inside of the post, yeah.
Knocking on the door, but my God, they're making a meal out of this.
This would be disgusting if they don't win. Disgusting.
It really is like none of the teams want that 4th place.
No, they're all allergic to it.
We're all bizarre. A disgrace.
Really are. Give it to Wolves.
Speaking of, our final story for the night, Pep came out and said he supports Ole Gunnar Solskjaer as manager of Manchester United.
Of course he does. He manages Man City.
Exactly.
Such a shit-eating move.
He's such a fucking prick. I do not like Pep Guardiola.
God, he knows exactly what he's doing there. Jeez.
So 6 defeats in their past 8 for Man United. And Pep comes out and says...
Keep this guy.
I support him. I love him. He's a great guy. And long may he reign. But meanwhile, Pep got knocked out of the Champions League by fucking Tottenham Hotspur.
We'll get there as well.
On away goals. Woo! I had no idea what had happened. So this, like an hour before we were recording, I was like, I guess I should Google some results just to see what happened. Because the Premier League I keep up with by default because of fantasy. Yeah, so fill me in. I'd love it. Let's do it.
There was 2 episodes of Game of Thrones.
Yeah, did you have to... Because last time we spoke, this was off air, but you said you were going to spend like $30 to get the Wi-Fi or whatever hotel you were at to watch the Game of Thrones premiere. Was that something that happened?
That is absolutely correct, yes. $30 a day for internet. We paid for it for the Sunday. We hooked up the laptop with an HDMI cord to the TV. And we watched the Game of Thrones premiere.
So the connection was good enough. You were all right to watch it, yeah?
Yeah. That I'm putting in the effort for. But, football.
Whatever, yeah.
So, Man City, away goals to Tottenham. 4-3 at home?
Yeah, so the first leg as well was very tight. I mean, Aguero had a penalty saved by Lloris, and then that meant that Tottenham could kind of come back and then just eke out that 1-0 win.
Boy, are they glad they did.
Yeah, but the 4-3 was an unbelievable game. I mean, it was, 5 goals in the first...
Yeah, 5 goals in 21 minutes.
Jeez.
It was,
Sterling scored after 4, then... Tottenham made it 2-1 with 2 Sun goals. That was after 10 minutes.
That was after 10, and then...
Bernardo Silva got one on 11 to make it 2-2.
Jesus Christ.
And then it was, after 21, it was 3-2. So 21 minutes in, it was 3-2 to Man City. It was a really good match. You should probably just check it out, honestly, because they were good goals. It was a great game. There was no sort of edgy tightness to it at all. They were just going at each other.
No, and it was the fact that Tottenham also just went toe-to-toe with them. They didn't really hold back as much as anybody thought they would. They really were just kind of exchanging blows for quite a long time. And it wasn't all going City's way, but you thought it was when they went up to 4-2. And then Tottenham just pulled that ridiculous shit, and I will stand by this because we criticised him a lot last week, saying, when is Fernando Llorente going to step up?
Yeah, indeed.
Now, we opened ourselves up for a bit there, but I still stand by it. I don't know when Fernando Llorente is going to stand up, because you cannot show me a player who jumps up to head the ball and hits it with his arm above his pelvis and then hits his pelvis for it to go in. You cannot tell me that is a good player. Like, to misjudge a clear flight of the ball that badly
That's so
to somehow blunder the ball in. Like, absolutely not.
So you haven't seen any of the goals, Oscar?
No, I'm reacting in real time to the fact that it was Fernando fucking Llorente.
So, right, okay. It's better than that even, because obviously that
then went to VAR.
That went to VAR, as Chuck says. Yeah, it was a controversial goal because his hand is, or his arm, is above his sort of pelvis, and it sort of comes off his pelvis and thigh. So VAR are rocking and rolling it for ages, trying to figure out if it came off his hand or not. And then they give him the goal. He goes mental as if he scored a 30-yard volley. Which is fair enough. He's put, at the time he's put his team up in.
And it would be typical Llorente to score the winning goal in a game that Tottenham didn't win.
Yeah.
As well.
Exactly,
just the weird mind meld of what the fuck. And then City, obviously, towards the end then, they're pressing and pressing and pressing, and Eriksen goes to... Does he play the ball back or does he clear it? And it bounces off Bernardo Silva's leg. But Silva isn't playing a ball on, but at that point Aguero's just gone offside.
Just.
Millimetres, like it's not much at all. Squares it to Sterling, who absolutely coolly dispatches that ball.
Everyone goes mental. Everyone loses their mind. It's like, this is, Oscar, this is like 2 or 3 minutes into stoppage time.
Oh my God.
So, everyone's absolutely losing it. And in real time, I didn't notice it was offside. Like, none of the commentators seemed to notice. No one in the ground even really looked at the linesman. It didn't feel like.
No.
Like, it wasn't. But then the
linesman didn't give it, I don't think. That they had the conversation with VAR.
Oh, no, the linesman
and that's
didn't
what I mean.
no.
They said it was a deflection. It wasn't a pass. Like, Eriksen played the ball, and it's come off of Bernardo Silva's leg. And then gone, and I never knew that would then intend on making it offside, which is why there's now been all of these calls in about the offside rule, and do you actually gain that much of an advantage by being such a tiny amount offside, and it also is being like a fluke deflection. But, oh my God, there were Man City fans that left after Raheem scored the goal, and they were getting interviewed. No, there was a guy who left, and he got called back by a reporter outside and said, "Oh, so how do you feel after the defeat?" And he's like, "What? No, we won. Like, I don't know what you're talking about." It's like, yeah, VAR ruled out the goal. Like,
oh my God, that's unbelievable.
But there was so much drama in that game, and it was just incredible. And
oh, that sounds so delightful. So delightful.
Exhaustingly good, even as a neutral, and that's exactly what you want to see out of a Champions League game.
It was brilliant, and ultimately the VAR just added to the drama. I mean, if you're a City fan, you're hating it. One, because you might think the Llorente goal wasn't, was a handball, or whatever. It wasn't, but whatever. And then
it did categorically hit his arm, though. Now I don't know whatever the ultimate. It hit, So what was weird is that VAR kept showing the angle on the TV screens. They kept showing the angle from front on for Llorente, and when it's front on, it doesn't look. It looks like it hits his thigh or his hip or wherever it is. But when you see it kind of from 45 degrees behind him, you do see it clearly comes off his forearm down to his hip. But obviously the distance is so little that you don't know if that would actually count as I've intentionally hit that with my arm and then it's hit my leg, if you see what I mean. So whether it's technically a handball, but it 100% hit his arm.
Oh, really? Okay. I didn't think it did, but okay.
And that's the thing as well that we've said about VAR, and people say about VAR and not these decisions. It still has this uncertainty and still has this element.
Sure.
The hype and everything, and obviously, yes, the Man City fans will absolutely hate it, and there is that element of, do we celebrate a goal now?
Yeah.
But
so as far as I'm concerned, then the goal. Bear in mind what you said there of it hitting his arm. It still needs to stand though, because it's not a clear and obvious error. Because I certainly didn't think that it hit his arm. They didn't seem to think there was enough there to rule it out. So fine, I still think the right decision was come to then if it's not a clear and obvious error.
Yeah, and in a proper implementation of VAR, it sounds like too.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And to be honest, they probably saw, oh, it's Llorente. He probably can't intend on doing anything because nothing is deliberate. It all just happens by accident. So we can't give a handball against him because he definitely did not mean to do that.
To score a goal.
No, absolutely not.
That's so good. So is that a good look for VAR or a bad look for VAR, you think?
I think generally it's good. And the last goal, I mean, bar obviously the timing, that the drama of a last minute goal would have been amazing and all that. The drama of it being ruled out by VAR was equally brilliant as a neutral. It was absolutely stunning to watch.
Excellent. All right, well, that'll catch us up on European stuff then. So that means it is time, gentlemen, for Oscar's long list of XG numbers. 2.73, 1.8, 3.4, 2.7, 1.0. 1.41.
This is like some sort of MK Ultra Russian spy programming stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like the Winter Soldier, right? Those are actual XG numbers. I'm reading about Manchester United because Manchester United lost 4-0 to Everton. I did see that.
I believe that is what constitutes a dicking. Holy mother-forking shirt balls. That was bad. I mean, Everton there were some cracking goals in there, like Luca Digne's shot that was a volley that curved outside and just completely dumbfounded De Gea. Fair play for that one. But my God, it's not looked good for United in the last few weeks.
So that's exactly the thing, right? The narrative now has been like, oh, what happened? United's season is derailing. We joked before about Pep coming out and saying, despite their recent defeats, I still support Ole, all that sort of stuff, right? Like, and also, does he think it's Ole, like, when they pass it? Is that why he supports him? He's like, Ole, Ole, Ole. No.
Maybe.
So I did some digging on the numbers, as I'm prone to do.
As is my want.
When the situation calls for it. Yes, as is my want.
As is your fetish.
And since Ole Gunnar Solskjaer took over, they have, and I highlighted a couple of specific matches, but in aggregate, not including the Everton match, because the Everton match, obviously, craziness happened. So leading up to the Everton match, his tenure was 34 goals scored, 34.7 generated on XG. So pretty spot on.
Yeah.
And especially over that big of a sample size, you'll have some where they wildly overperform and some where they wildly underperform, and it all kind of evens out, which is what you would expect. But in expected goals allowed, only 15 actual goals allowed, 19.8 expected goals allowed. So basically 5 full goals, or, out of 20 is basically a 25% less. So it's a huge amount than their XGA. And I highlighted a couple of ones that are specifically in terms of the calendar from when they were not at all, quote unquote, in crisis. Against Cardiff, they conceded 1.3 and only gave up 1 goal. Against Huddersfield, 1.4. Against Newcastle, 0.7, only conceding 0. Against Tottenham, 1.8, only conceding 0. Against Leicester, 1.4, only conceding 0, so none. Against fucking Fulham, they conceded 2.2 XG and didn't actually give up goal 0. Against Palace, Chuck, your boys, 1.7, only conceding 1. So these aren't even good teams. Cardiff, Huddersfield, Newcastle, Leicester, Fulham, and then there's Palace and Tottenham in there, which are, Palace is a mid-table team, Tottenham are a good team.
Thank you.
So, they were wildly overperforming their defensive numbers against crap teams, and that was his first game in charge, his second game in charge, his fourth game in charge, his fifth game in charge, and his eighth game in charge. This was very early in the run.
It was very clear from the start of his tenure, at least, that the idea was just go and score goals again, and we picked up on that at the time. Now, that is not, of course, as it is kind of showing now, that's not a sustainable way of running things, but I think for the time he took over, you can give a bit of grace period there, because you looked at
what they needed.
The complete change. It was exactly what they needed, and Rashford was performing really well. Even Lukaku was amongst the goals. He scored he scored 3 braces in a row. I think 2 in the Premier League and 1 in Europe.
Yeah,
and then they do have crap defence, and they have had a lot of injuries this year. But I agree that those things are quite worrying for a team like Man United to be giving up, 2.2 XG against Fulham, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, it's really not, and that's early on in his tenure. So it's not that like the underlying performances have shifted dramatically. This has been a recurring theme of his time in charge from the very beginning, is that they're way overperforming their defensive numbers, and it has led to a lot of results, and now that's sort of, balancing itself out and regressing more towards the mean in terms of like it actually is the results that they should be giving up. And so now it looks like things have turned around, but I don't think they have at all. What's your sense of that? Like, not obviously stats roboting out and looking at numbers and a list of numbers. Like, do you feel like things have significantly changed recently?
I just think it's coming to the fore again, has been highlighted a lot by the media in various kind of facets, that a lot of the issues are coming from the players, and similar to, as we've said before, with like Chelsea situations in the past and it being a bit toxic, is that across a couple of managers now it seemed that way, and they just seem to have turned on Ollie for a bit, and he's highlighted that now and said, that there are some players who probably shouldn't be there or don't really care or don't care enough, and even the board are coming out and backing Ollie to take them further, but saying that there's a lot of players potentially that are going to go, and that's a really strong statement, I think, especially from a manager that has ultimately done nothing in his career. I mean, he got relegated with Cardiff, and then he's managed in Norway. They don't have, as has been highlighted for numerous years, Man United do not have a strong structure of higher up. It's all kind of, none of that's ever been put into place since Ferguson left, which really is what they needed straight away. And so there must be something really bad going on if that's the route they're taking, that they're going to back an unproven manager who's just a bit of a fan favourite, who, yes, he's turned around the mood a bit and got some of the players going, but ultimately hasn't really improved the results, because after everything, they're still sixth?
Yeah, they're currently sixth, and they're only now projected at 10% to make the top four.
Wow.
So incredibly unlikely.
So, yeah, I think it's a very strong statement from the United board to come out and say they back Ole and not the players. And so we shall see if there's an absolute fire sale, and I suspect if there's going to be, then Mr. Pogba might be one of the first names out of the door.
I wish Chelsea didn't have a transfer ban. God!
Giving that sort of trust to a manager who is unproven at top level is a hell of a thing to do when you've got currently no director of football as well. Is that right?
Nada. No pasa nada.
So, I mean, that's a hell of a thing. He's got to rebuild that squad. Are they really trusting him to do? I mean, he might turn out, Ferguson's first season was dodgy. Who knows? But it's
Ferguson's first few years was quite dodgy. I think in his second or third season he was looking like he was going down, and it's only because in '90 when they won the FA Cup final against Palace, and that was across two legs. So even then it wasn't really dominant. It was only then that kind of gave him a lifeline to then build from there. Then obviously the Premier League era started, and he became, as I've said specifically for myself, the greatest football manager that there has been in the modern era.
Yeah, I can't deny that either, as much as it pains me to say out loud. He is just the greatest manager.
And inevitably it's going to be hard for them to fill in that void, but I think the direction that they've gone has just been a steady spiral, that they haven't put the foundation in place. They've just changed the man, going from David Moyes to Louis van Gaal to Mourinho, who obviously notably is not a sustainable business model, to then bring in Solskjaer as a temporary manager, which is such a mental move, and not something that I can remember seeing in English football, that was like we're going to take a manager from another club who is currently managing them just in the off season to then have for a while. I think probably the only reason they offered him the contract was because they had to, because of the number of weeks he had been there.
Right.
And so you can't see them changing to a different manager in the summer. So
although Rafa Benitez did come out and say that he wants to be a manager at 70 years old and challenging for the Champions League again. That came out recently. So, he's available. He's maybe batting his eyelashes at a couple of big teams.
He'll go anywhere where they'll spend some money for him.
Yeah, something to look forward to. Well, that should just about cover it for Man United then. quick update for you two gentlemen. It looks like Tottenham, just peeking over my shoulder behind me, Tottenham have beaten Brighton, unfucking fortunately, for me and for Adam. The one thing me and Adam have in common.
Ericsson saved the day with a 25-yard strike, yep.
Ugh, Brighton, man.
Chris Hughton looks gutted. Jeez.
Chris Hughton, I don't know what's happened to that man, but I had so much respect for him as a manager, and I've always thought he's been good.
Yeah, I like him as well, but I mean, Brighton lately have been absolutely shocking. I mean, the day after we recorded last week, losing 2-0 at home to Cardiff.
I know, in an absolutely vital game that both teams had to win. They got a decent point, obviously, against Wolves, but to kind of make sure it's 3 points, they've got a vastly superior goal difference to Cardiff, so that's worth an extra point, obviously, there.
Yeah.
But, for Brighton, it's been since December, since they got a result against Palace, like a massive one. Like, they beat us 3-1 and fully outplayed us, and it was awful. Since then, they then lost 3, 2 draws and a win, lose 3, a draw, lose 2, awful. I think since then they've had 3 wins and 4 draws.
Oof.
In 19 games. Like, that's bad. To go from 10th to 17th in that period of time is just absolutely awful. Where they were such a good defensive team. I mean, it's kind of showed in the last couple to get a clean sheet against Wolves and only concede late on to Spurs is a bit better, but they need to be scoring goals. I don't think they've scored in 5, maybe 6 now with that. But yeah, and we kind of mentioned before, like they got a decent result against Wolves, and Wolves, who have been an absolutely surprise package this season, seem to have dropped off a cliff a bit. Like, they've only had 5 points in their last 5 games.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the table right now from January 1st, so since we hit 2019 through yesterday, so updated after the Chelsea match. And Brighton are the 3rd worst team in that time span, getting only 9 points and scoring only 10 goals. The only team worse than that is Huddersfield. Even Fulham have scored 15 in that time, like, geez. And Wolves would be at 14th in that time span, with only 19 points. Chelsea would be 1 point above Crystal Palace, Chuck.
Still 1 point above Palace. God damn it, that was last time we checked in.
And, here's my favorite part, 1 point below fucking Burnley. Burnley are the 5th best team since January.
Burnley done Burnley. Burnley'd everyone in their Burnley-ish Burnley way.
Burnley gonna Burnley.
Yeah, Tottenham at 9th, Burnley at 5th, Arsenal barely above Burnley on 3 more points than them. Tottenham at 9th is not good either. This is a weird-looking table since January, actually.
Yeah, you got to remember that it wasn't too long ago we were saying that Tottenham could be a surprise package to win the league, and then just absolutely dropped off a cliff. And
yeah, after I had a bet on them.
After you put a bet on them. You, the ruiner of dreams.
Sorry, Spurs fans.
Yeah, but it's been such a weird season. Like we said, there's Wolves, who I made a claim a few weeks ago about their results against the top 6, and seemingly like they get a lot of points. And turns out this season against the top 6 teams, they've earned 1.3 points per game. So it doesn't seem like a lot, but
that's better than a draw.
Well, that's averaging, yeah, exactly, better than a draw. But against the bottom 6 teams, they've averaged 1 point. And they've also had the absolute dishonour of losing twice to Huddersfield.
Oh.
Still, even God knows how long later since Huddersfield's last win, 6 of their 14 points have come from Wolves.
Well, Huddersfield have 1 win in 2019. So.
And there you go, it's against Wolves.
There you go.
Yeah. That's bad, and Huddersfield have just equalled the record, I believe, for most home losses in a Premier League season, which is a record that is previously held twice by Sunderland.
Brilliant.
And that just shows you how bad they are and how much they've punched above their weight. Fulham have started to actually do some goals in some games. Mitro done a goal? Yeah. Mitro.
God, Fulham and Huddersfield are going to be glad to be back in the Championship, aren't they?
Oh, I think so. But do we? It's very obvious who now, even though I've said before I'd quite like Brighton to stay up. I think because it would be so hilarious, I would love for Brighton to get relegated now. But who would you gents prefer to see stay up? Would it be Cardiff or Brighton?
Ooh, prefer to see, I guess, Cardiff, because we like Neil Warnock. He does provide a lot of content.
I was going to say, yeah, just for hilarity, Neil Warnock. But I mean, I'd feel for Chris Hughton because I just don't think he's really got the players at Brighton, to be honest.
Cardiff are the much more likely too, despite everything of Brighton's recent slide. In terms of the projections, Cardiff are 84% to go down. Brighton only 16%.
84?
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's very strongly still in Cardiff's favor. Or in Brighton's favor. Cardiff bad.
I wonder if that takes into account tonight. It won't have updated from tonight's result, though, will it?
No, I don't think so.
No.
It will in a minute.
And that's weird because Cardiff have got a game against Fulham.
No, that is updated.
Oh, it is? Okay,
yeah, it
blimey.
is.
So what are their run-ins looking like?
Well, Brighton have still got Newcastle, Man City, Arsenal.
Ah, right. Well, that might be why then, I suppose.
Yeah, Cardiff have got the easier run-in, for sure. Because Palace are going to give them 3 points.
I mean, yeah, well, that surprised me then, because, Cardiff, so there's only 3 points in it now between them.
3 points in it. Yeah, Brighton have Newcastle at home, Arsenal away, and Man City at home on the final game of the season.
Yeah, that is much worse. Cardiff have Fulham away, Palace at home, and United away.
It could go to the last game of the season.
It could.
Yeah.
It definitely could. But something in the projections has Brighton significantly favored to stay up. I mean, I guess 3 points in hand.
It's 3 points and a goal difference, so...
Yeah, fair point.
That is for only 3 matches, that is a lot. These teams, it's not like Cardiff are getting points by the bucket.
No, that's a fair point.
3 points is a lot of points.
It's not just one win, is it? They've got to get a win over them and another point. So
yeah, which is why. So that's why that 1 point against Wolves away is so vital. And it's crazy the margins, especially at the tail end of the season, that you start to notice how crazy it is. And it just goes to show how good the Premier League still is. It's as much as we joke that the middle of the table is shit and what have you, I just think it's because it's so competitive that the second any of those teams make a mistake, another team they're playing on capitalises on it.
Yeah.
There's no league where they have a bank of 6 teams at the top that are always in with a shot of winning the title. At most you could probably say 4 in any other league. And there's no league where it has such a competitive middle pack. And
no, the mid-table in the Premier League is outrageously good compared to every other league in Europe.
Yeah, and it's crazy, especially when you look at Italy where, it's Juventus just win again and again. Even AC and Inter have dropped off so massively in the last few years. France is just always going to be PSG for the next 5 years or however long.
Yeah, there's 2 teams in Germany, 2, maybe 3 in Spain. That's it.
Yeah.
And we still have so many fun combinations left in play for the end of the season. With everybody in Europe still in the top 6, there's all sorts of craziness that could go down. There's a pretty good chance. I would say it's probably, I haven't looked at the projections or the odds, but Chelsea-Arsenal has to be the more likely Europa League final than anything else.
I believe so now, yeah, because Arsenal dispatching Napoli was a great result. Chelsea did what they needed to do to beat Prague.
Yeah, Chelsea had a real fun match too. I think it was 4-3 in the Chelsea match too, or something like that.
Yeah, 4-3, and you won on aggregate 5-3. Yeah.
So there's a lot. I mean, genuinely, in the stats community, on Twitter, on the blogs, all that stuff, the consensus has reached at this point that City and Liverpool are 2 of the 3 best teams in Europe. Full stop. And that does make sense given that they're gonna have. We haven't even talked about the title race because we don't really know what's gonna happen. We don't know at all what's gonna happen tomorrow. United and City. We're particularly bad at predictions on this podcast. like we've said a few times now, they're both projected for 96 points, and that's why it's 56% to City, 44% to Liverpool, because it's such fine margins that it's going to be a decimal of a projected point. That is the difference between them. 96 points is outrageous. These are both all-time great Premier League teams, and one of them is not going to win the title. I do feel a little vindicated because I did say on the before the season even started that I think Liverpool might be just as likely as City to win the league, and that even though City might be the better team slightly, that it's still just they're both going to be better than everyone else, and that's all it takes. And it has played out perfectly all season long. And sure, my predictor league is garbage. And hi, Finley, you are beating me. Good job. Thank you for filling in last week. But like, I feel pretty good about that take. And you, both of you, and especially you, Chuck, were like, no way, Liverpool aren't that, blah, blah, blah. And like, it's been right down to the wire all season long. And it's fucking crazy. Like, England across the board, like our mid-table to their mid-table, our top two to anyone's top two, is just phenomenal time to be an English Premier League fan.
It felt like it really wasn't like 6 or 7 years ago.
No. But 10 years ago it was.
Exactly, yeah. 10, 12 years ago, you were having 3 out of the 4 Champions League semi-finalists be
Every
from Premier
year.
League.
Yeah. And let's not forget, there was a point, I think it was the year Chelsea won Champions League. I can't remember which year, but if an English team didn't win it, then we would have lost a Champions League place. Spots. That's how long it had been since we've done well because of the Europe quotients. And now you look at it that, we've said before, like there could be a Europa and Champions League final and both of them are all English teams, and that's outrageous. Absolutely outrageous.
It does remind me of when it was just the top four, the big four, before City and Tottenham kind of got in the conversation. When it would be Liverpool, United, and Chelsea and Arsenal were all in the semifinals for like 4 or 5 years in a row.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like multiple of them. And you're right, in between there was like this sort of dark period where you're welcome to the rest of England. Chelsea were the only team making deep runs in Europe, and they kept the coefficient alive. Like, that was a weird pride, a weird like mark of pride for us. Like, yeah, we're the only team that made semifinals like X number of years in a row, and if it wasn't for us, the coefficient would have dropped below Italy or whoever. I think it was Italy.
Yeah, I believe so.
But that's like, now in retrospect, like that's how bad things got for a little while there, that like Chelsea were the only team keeping the coefficient up. And now it seems like we're poised to be back in that era again, like it was when I first became a fan. Like that's the Premier League I came up loving, was Liverpool, Chelsea, Arsenal, and United, the big four, huge in Europe, 4 of the best teams in the world, genuinely. Which is why in my head, like I still think of Chelsea as like they should be one of the best teams in the world, and when they're not, it's like a cognitive dissonance there that is hurtful.
Yeah, that happens at the moment you come into being a football fan, doesn't it? Like, because for me, it's still mental that Leeds aren't in the Premier League.
Right, so, it sets it in for you.
Like that the point you come into football is the point that everything's frozen in your mind of where big clubs are big clubs and that.
Exactly.
So yeah, I know exactly. What
it is so weird, and you say that there's a great chance now for Leeds to come back.
Come on, Leeds,
the
dirty
Leeds. The Championship is still very much alive. I mean, you look at the playoff spots and the fact that there's two games left, and the title winner still isn't decided. Like, and I can't remember that ever being so late. I mean, there's still one of 3 teams that can win it, albeit, basically one game can then decide who has won it. But there's some Premier League old guard in there. Norwich look like they're coming back up. West Brom are in there. Villa, Middlesbrough aren't too far off. I mean, that's impressive they've come back, especially when you consider how you can fall through the trapdoor. Like,
oh, I mean, Stoke are nowhere. Swansea are nowhere. Bolton have been relegated this week.
Bolton, relegated this week.
For me, still feel like a biggish club. Bolton, you really can just.
Sunderland dropped twice. Season after season, back-to-back relegations.
Drew 1-1 to Peterborough this week.
Yeah, big stuff. Oh God, poor Peterborough.
Doncaster lost. We're still in with the playoff shout.
We are still
in with the playoff shout. They lost today to Accrington Stanley.
There's your League One update, kids. That's the popular one. That'll get that one fan.
Ian, do you want to know the projections for League One for Peterborough's chances of making the playoffs and or being promoted? Because 538 does run those for every league.
We've got a game in hand on Doncaster, but we're 4 points behind, I think, so it won't be good, but yeah, go on.
19% to make the playoffs. So,
oh, wow. That's actually more than I thought.
Yeah, not terrible, but, 1 in 5 chance, really.
Yeah.
Only 2% to get promoted, though. Sorry to say.
Well, yeah, fair enough. I'm surprised it's 19% to get in the playoffs, to be honest.
And then for the championship, Norwich are 73% to win it, Sheffield 27%, so solidly in their favor. And then you go all the way down to Bristol, and there's still a 33% chance of making the playoffs. Like, it is very, very tight.
It really is,
for the 3 the Derby, Middlesbrough, and Bristol are both pretty dead even to make a playoff spot.
And it's a shame that, Dave Mateo's Sheffield Wednesday sit just outside of that.
Oh, poor Dave.
Less than 1%, but still in with a shout.
What's it like to know you're going to support a team that's never going to win? Call back.
Oh, yeah. You can't get away with that, Dave. Come on.
Poor Dave. Poor Dave. But, yeah, God, football. What a game,
Bloody football.
Bloody football.
All right, well, if you gentlemen will excuse me, I have to go watch Game of Thrones over and over again before Avengers comes out and start preparing myself to weep myself to sleep quietly under a table somewhere on Thursday night.
Could be an interesting week for you, Oscar.
Oh, this weekend's going to be no good.
There's going to be lots of tears. What time are you seeing Avengers tomorrow?
The very, very, very first showing on Thursday. So, it's technically a Friday midnight release, but they do the early show if you buy your tickets way in advance.
Oh, so does that mean I'll see it before you?
I'm seeing it 6 p.m. on Thursday. So 1 a.m. your time, Thursday.
1 a.m.
So you probably will be like an hour before me if you're going to a midnight show.
I'm going, 1 minute after midnight, but Thursday. So when it's Wednesday, 7 o'clock for you.
Oh, right.
Oh, you're going midnight.
Yeah, I'm gonna see it. I'm gonna see it technically a day before you.
So Wednesday into Thursday, you're seeing it?
Yeah.
Are you sure it's not Thursday into Friday?
No.
Fuck, you guys get it a day before us.
They always, though, to be fair, though, I think every single Marvel film basically is released in England before US.
No way.
Well, there are already spoilers. Like, apparently 10 Minutes got leaked, so I'm staying the fuck off social media.
Oh, yeah, fair. And I will not, I promise you, I will not say anything.
No, I know you wouldn't. But I'm like, that's already out there. But yeah, I'm going Thursday night.
I still haven't watched Infinity War yet.
I'm literally watching that as soon as we're done recording. Just to
get it. You've got Sky. It's on Sky. Watch
That's
it.
the next one on my Marvel list.
This weekend, Ian, is going to be a fucking train wreck for me. Because on Thursday night is Endgame. I've spent the last over 10 years obsessing over Marvel, investing into these characters. Half of them are going to die on Thursday night. And then on Sunday night, Thrones. Spoiler alert for those of you that haven't caught up on Thrones, the first 2 episodes of the season.
Everyone's going to die.
It's the Battle of Winterfell,
and related.
Everybody's going to fucking die. From Thursday to Monday, most of the characters in fiction that I care about are dying. Monday is going to be a horrible day. I have to go to work and pretend I'm okay, and I'm just going to go cry in the bathroom every 10 minutes.
Man.
Oh boy. Dear.
Well, there we go, guys. That's one for you there if you thought this week was too football heavy. There's 5 minutes on how Oscar's emotional state will be over the next week.
Yeah. So Godspeed Avengers fans, Godspeed Thrones fans, and Godspeed football fans. May the odds be ever in your favor.
19%.
Mathematically safe.
Oh, there
Cash
we go.
back.
You got what you wanted, Chuck. Successful season.
Earliest ever. 6 seasons in the Premier League. Da-na-na-na-na. Yeah.
And goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.